The two of you have an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal today called "Time for a Spending Cap with Teeth," and in it you outline your proposal. And you write that, as with other constitutional amendments, Congress would be given the authority to enforce and implement it, but for the first time, the federal government would have a limit on its size and scope. Why is now the time to do this? People have talked about how the economy is very fragile right now. There are still many people who believe that stimulus should be continued and more money should be injected in the economy, and later we should work on deficit reduction. Why now?
Well, I really do believe that the American people know that the strength of this nation is not derived from the size of our treasury or the size of our federal budget. The strength of this nation is found in the ingenuity, the resources, the creativity, the courage, and the sacrifice of the American people. Our founders knew that. The Constitution of the United States is a document of limited government, but we are on a pathway to essentially transform the size and scope of government by the midway through this next century so that it will be indistinguishable from the socialist governments of Europe in its magnitude and size. And I don't think the American people have any confusion about what that means. It means that people in this country understand that as government expands, freedom contracts. And so if we're going to double the size of the federal government as a percentage of our economy, we are going to be less free. I think most Americans know that. In our enterprises, in our personal lives, we know we're going to be less prosperous. There are statistics in the piece that we'll post online, the longer version, about, for every percentage increase in the federal government's expenditure as a portion of GDP, you actually see unemployment go up by a fraction of a percent. This means as government grows, it takes away opportunities for Americans. And the other piece of this is, look, the Bible says that the borrower becomes the slave of the lender. Right now, I think we currently have borrowed about $800 billion from communist China. They are our lead lender right now. The president went there recently to go visit our money. And the American people understand that the communist Chinese have a system that is antithetical to most of the ideals of this free society. And they also have interest in the long term, which could be different than our interests, particularly in the Asian Pacific Rim in the 21st century. And that therefore we erode our security to the extent that we allow our government to expand beyond reasonable and historical boundaries, because we find ourselves having to borrow from those who have antithetical ideals and antithetical strategic interests to the United States of America. So I think the American people know that it is imperative that we put this Congress under either political party and this administration on a pathway toward maintaining the role and the size and the scope the federal government has played historically in our society, or we're going to be less free, less prosperous, and less secure in the 21st century.